Hello and welcome to my fragrance talk. My name is Casian or Cassian, and today we will do a practical how to decant guide. We'll talk plenty of theory in terms of conservation, convenience, waste, and demonstrate all options. I'll cover the pros and cons of each way to decant, discuss materials needed, including sample vials and bottles to decant into. We'll also talk why we decant and when it makes sense to do so. That should be covered right at the end. First, let's do a quick scent of the day. This morning I wore Animal, but for the evening I'm wearing early 2000s Fahrenheit on my left wrist, and on my right wrist I'm wearing 1991 vintage Fahrenheit. Quick sniff. The early 2000s one is a bit more floral, less gasoline, a bit more fresh, whereas the vintage has a lot more of the bass notes, more like bass notes. It's definitely punchier, a bit darker, and more of that gasoline signature scent. Okay, so back to our topic at hand. We'll start by classifying decants according to the type of source. From my perspective, there are two possibilities, but please let me know if it's actually a spectrum. Either you're decanting from a spray bottle, voila, or you are decanting from a splash bottle. That is a bottle without a spray or atomizer, which is similar in design to a drinking bottle. Same concept as your Gatorade, except it's not for drinking. So let's have a look at examples of each. For each type of source, there are a number of options or techniques which can be applied. Now, don't get me wrong, there's also pain. Decanting is a bitch. This is why I'm making this video. No matter how you do it, it will be a bit stressful and risky. Because there are multiple options, there is also the complication of some being better than others, but not universally better. Better relative to your specific goals and circumstances. I'm going to try to demo each of them so you can see how to actually do it if that's your goal. So we're going to start with the splash bottle. First, you think that decanting from a splash is better than decanting from a spray bottle because presumably you're playing ball to it and using it according to its purpose, which is to decant liquid, right? Wrong. It will fight you. Especially small bottles will fight you because there is surface tension and liquid won't come out of them even when you're holding them upside down, except all of a sudden when it will, and then you'll spill everything. So decanting from a big splash bottle like 100 ml or 50 ml is generally easier. But let's go over the options. First, I call it freestyle mouth to mouth, like like giving first aid. Second, using a funnel. Third, using a pipette. And fourth, using a syringe. So these are the four options for splash. Now let's talk about decanting from a spray bottle. The options are spraying directly into receiving container or a decant bottle or a vial. Then second, spraying into a container using an adapter, atomizer cap with a pipe, I have that somewhere. Yeah, let me show you what I mean to cut the suspense. And third and last is using a syringe to methodically suck out the juice. So let's go and start with splash. Freestyle mouth to mouth is of course the riskiest option, but it's also the most convenient since it requires nothing. It requires no props. Surface tension is a bitch. Sometimes the juice won't come out and you have to just give it taps. Light taps will help, or you can, you might just have to give up and the method might not work in certain instances. The problems with this method, it's very easy to miss the target and very easy to have perfume sipping by the side. So there's waste, there's mess. So let's give it a spin. Yeah. So I have here my sample bottle, and here I have this vintage gray flannel. So I'm gonna try to capture this nice on video, but what you want to do for the freestyle is basically go mouth to mouth, slowly tilt, and then hopefully the pressure stuff is gonna come out. But it doesn't really. So right now there's no movement. Well, if you go back and forth, you'll find that will cause some seeping. So what you want to do, actually, what I found is you want to see my index finger here is ready to tap the bottom of this little bottle. I have inverted it fully. Now I'm tapping. Oh my god. Okay, so sometimes it just needs a shove. Now this is a lot of juice. The advantage with decanting from splash is that if you've decanted too much, in this instance, I wanted just about this much. If you decant too much of it, you can easily go back and add some back. It's not ideal, but you have to do what you have to do. Often when you're making a decant, you have a target like 1 ml, 1.5, 2 ml. It's also good to use scales for that reason. I have a small scales, but in this instance, this is a decant for myself because I just want to experience the full joy of gray flannel atomized. I do of course have a full modern bottle, but I only have this much of vintage juice, and I want to see how it behaves when sprayed. So that was the demo. That was the most difficult part of, and you see it was mess free, and also there was very little oxygen exposure because it just dumped straight in. And then when I wanted to stop, I stopped. Although this is actually not so hard because it's a 15 ml bottle, which makes it easier than decanting from tighter small bottles like a 4 ml, a 3 ml. Let me show you. Like decanting from these little bastards, like this 1 ml Guerlain here, beautiful one. They can be very difficult to work with. But yeah. Let's now that you saw, again, the hardest part to figure out is the tapping bit. So using your index to get it started. In the past, I used to basically not tilt fully, not invert fully. I think if you invert fully, you saw it pours quicker. So you have to be careful. If you don't go full bottom up, but keep it tilted, you're going to have a bit more control on the flow. It's going to be slower flow, but also it's going to be harder to get it to pour because of gravity not taking its full effect. But yeah, the biggest thing is using your index to tap That's a lifesaver. And then it can go quite smoothly, as you saw, with no spills and with not much shaking, oxygen exposure, and mess. So this is why this actually is a great method. Now let's talk about number 2, which is adding a funnel. So this is a funnel. It adds a bit more safety because suddenly you're not aiming into this small opening here, small mouth of a sample, but you're aiming here, way wider. However, disadvantages are that you need to own this, and this needs to be clean, and then small quantity of juice will always stick to the funnel, which can be frustrating. It's slightly wasteful. And then most of the cons of method 1 remain because it can be it's as hard to get the flow going, to get the liquid out of the bottle. Okay, so normally what I would have done, I would have also, you see, this doesn't really fit in here. So you can have this problem where your funnel is actually too wide. I happen to have a smaller funnel as well. So I'm gonna do something that is probably not. This actually, see how small it is? It doesn't fit either. Don't want to mess this up. But okay, I think I'm actually just not going to demo this. But what you would do, you would insert the funnel and do the same thing as before. It just gives you more control here, more of a safety net. That's all. Apart from that, it's the same. So let's keep the practical side because I'm struggling here with this full sample. And let's go to method 3, which is using a pipette. So this is a pipette, and it works by you basically creating a vacuum here by pressing it, and once you release, with the basically you insert, you either first squeeze and then insert, or you insert and then squeeze. If you do the latter, then you're going to actually push some oxygen into your source, which is not great. So I recommend just squeezing and then inserting. And you insert this with a void. Once you let go, the pipette chamber here expands, and it will want to fill the void. So it's gonna suck some liquid in. That's how it works. And then you just squeeze again to eject your precious juice into your destination bottle. So let's see what the pros and cons. So now this is the huge quality of life improvement compared to the other ones, because now you have control. Now there's no need to be a spectator to the match between gravity and surface tension. You're just sucked it damn right in. And then also because you're not holding perfume containers bottom up, mouth resting precariously on the mouth of another container, there's basically no more risk of spillage and even catastrophe. So that's great, but some cons remain because you need a pipette and you need a clean pipette. So yeah, and then there tend to be cheap plastic one use, and you will probably have to bin them after you use them once, which feels pretty sad and wasteful. And you'll also run out of these once you do a few decants. And then also perfume will still cling to the inside when you're done. If you surface tension, you had to have the last laugh. And sometimes also the same thing that happened with the funnel, it just is not going to fit through the opening of your source bottle, especially if it's a mini. And also it might simply not it might fit but not go to the bottom, which would mean that you're not going to be able to fully to empty a bottle like you sometimes need to or want to using a pipette. So you might have to take out 80% of it and then the rest just pour. It's easier to pour once there's more air, where once the source is emptier, simply because I believe there's oxygen in that will also press. But I'm not really sure how it works, to be honest. The details are interesting, but not known. So let's see how we do this. I'm actually gonna do something which again I don't advise, which I'm going to put some juice back into my source. So I'm squeezing, inserting, releasing, and you see how much we took out, and it's right there. And then you have to be careful when you move from one container to the other, because there's a pesky sort of drop at the tip of the pipette. So now you insert and you press. I'm actually not gonna, I'm just gonna put it back in, but you get the idea. I realized I can, I want to keep this as pristine as it is, my source. So you see now what I meant. This probably won't focus very well, but there's tiny droplets left. So there's nothing to do with this. You have to either dab it on yourself or just accept the small loss. So let's set this to the side. It's a gray flannel perfumed pipette. Great. And now the last option that we have is the syringe. Okay, so this is great. It's the same as the pipette, but slightly cleaner, I would say, because these tend to be cleaner. They're treated as sort of sterile products, so they tend to come. This one is opened, but often they come in packaging like this, which ensures they're super clean. So it's cleaner than the pipette. It also gives you more control, but again, there are cons. It's consumable. It tends to be single use. It has to be clean, and you might also need a tip. So some of them you can add like a needle tip that's longer and narrow. So you might also need one of them, so you can reach deep inside your source. And you know, if you can't reach, then you're back to tilting games. So you have to tilt and then pull, and you have to kind of, if you don't have someone to help you, you need to operate the syringe single-handed, which, you know, doing this can be pretty tough. So it's not a perfect option, but yeah, let's do it. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna use, let's see if this works. Barely works. Even, you know, even with this full bottle, I barely got any juice out. So what I have to do, I have to tilt like this, and I'm risking spilling. And now I managed to extract a bit more from here. So it's not great. You need a needle, or ideally a sort of attachment that goes all the way. And now you're also stuck with some a few drops of perfume in the syringe, which I think you figured out by now annoys the hell out of me. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna put my loyal gray flannel bottle out of its pain by closing it, and I'm going to also cap this little 3 ml vial here, and that's it. I will enjoy wearing this. Okay, so this wraps up the splash decanting branch, the practicalities, the demonstration. The methods that I just covered in that order go up in terms of safety, I would say, but they go down in terms of convenience. So the first one is the least safe but the most convenient. The syringe, especially if you have an extension, is the most safe but probably the least convenient. Now, another comment here. For vintage perfumes, the mouth-to-mouth method is bad because it's so risky and messy, but it does have the advantage of no foreign objects touching your precious juice. I'm not inserting a pipette, I'm not routing it through a funnel, I'm not inserting a syringe. So also, when decanting precious vintage juice, you also need to consider the amount of agitation and oxygen exposure. Method 1 can be pretty bad when done badly. I myself have done lots of tapping, shaking in the past. Now I know how to avoid it. So if mastered, it can also be pretty smooth on the oxygen exposure count. The funnel is bad for oxygen exposure, I believe. It's pretty bad. And the pipette and the syringe are the best. But there's the most amount of contact, in my opinion. So it's not that clear cut. I think you're not wrong to use any of the methods that I mentioned, if you want to use them. Okay, so now let's talk about decanting from atomizers, which might be the most frequent use case for most people. So option 1, there's 3 options here. Option 1 is to spray direct, not sports direct, you heard me, spray direct. So this is best for convenience. No, it's actually amazing. And sometimes it can be the only option. Introducing integrated atomizers. Hello, anyone? So, you don't want to take these apart. Sometimes excuse my absence. Sometimes you can't take these apart. For example, with this one, I tried removing for standard one-man show bottles. You can actually take this off, but not with this one, because somehow they've done something really weird in here, where the cap is wider than some sort of internal opening here, and it's just impossible to take it off without damaging it. And another example is this. Let's say you have some precious silver shoulders kuros. Do you want to tinker with this? Do you want to disassemble this? I like, hell no, I don't. So let's see where we were. Yeah. So even if you try really hard to, take an integrated atomizer apart, you might permanently ruin the aesthetics of your bottle. You might break it, break the plastic, etc. Or even you might break the spray mechanism, which, terrible. So the spray direct method is very good because it requires nothing, it's quick, and it's universal. You can use it with any bottle. Now the cons. It's easy to miss the target and create waste. You're spraying to the side, spraying in the air. It doesn't go inside your target. And you're also atomizing perfume, which then kind of reconstitutes into liquid after being exposed in small particles to oxygen. For really old and precious juice, this might not be desirable. But then again, all juice often comes in splash. Again, there is a skillfulness, sort of agility element to this. It's something that you practice and master. In my own experience, no fragrance I ever decanted this way resulted in a bad smelling, substandard, or quickly deteriorating sample. So let us demonstrate. I have here my new friend, this very pretty bottle of Animal, and also featured should be my my target. So yeah, this is my target bottle. So here it is, ready to go. So here is why the spray direct method is called the spray direct. What you want to do is you want to really match the opening here in the atomizer with the mouth of the bottle, and you kind of want to start. You don't do this, by the way, right? Don't ever try it like this. Don't go too high, go lower, because you're going to be pressing this and it's going to go down. My experience, if you go just like this, it's perfect. So let's give it a spin then. Let's see how it goes. That wasn't very good. There was some spray flying around. You have to kind of experiment with contact versus no contact. It helps if you have support sort of touch point. Let me just focus on this and see how it goes. Okay, that was smooth. That was straight in with a little cloud. As you can see, it's pretty stressful, and you have some small droplets on the sides. It catches most of it. I think it catches 90% of the juice. But for some reason, I think the opening of this small bottle here is actually slightly narrower than this one of the smaller sample vial. And it's also a function of how easy your source bottle is to hold and spray. This is a pretty stiff sprayer, and this is a pretty chunky, very chunky. You need a big hand. So it's a chunky bottle, so it's not very smooth. I'm just gonna do it a couple more times so you can see for yourselves how demanding this and this method is. And I'm gonna try no contact and see how it goes. This is a good angle for you guys. Well, okay. See. That was terrible. The no contact spray went here in the air. So let's go closer, and I'm gonna rest it right here on the ledge here, and I'm gonna click. Yeah, okay. So this wasn't the best that I've managed with this method. It's usually way nicer than this, and I reckon this is because of the bottle I ended up using to spray from. So you noticed there's clear pros that I mentioned, but also cons that you just saw. I think, this method, it's great to do with, this bottle cost me 30 quid. If I'm going to spray 2 ml into this, I'm probably going to waste 0.1 ml, maybe 0.2. That's a 10% loss. That's acceptable because this is a cheap one. Would I spray vintage Fahrenheit this way? I wouldn't. I tell you, I wouldn't. So you have to pick your battles. So now let's cover option 2, which is spraying with an adapter that you mentioned. That I mentioned previously, that you saw. You're gonna see it again. This mostly removes the atomizing into small particles oxygen exposure concern, and it also helps with hitting the target. It's way less stressful overall. However, disadvantages. It requires props, single-use props, unlike the direct spray. It requires you taking off the atomizer cap from your bottle. When you put it back, you need to press hard so it attaches, and that causes your bottle to spray. Often that means a potentially unwanted spray on yourself or a wasted spray in the air. I don't like this. You probably don't either. There is also a lot of mess because the fit of the adapter here might not be perfect. It's not perfect, I tell you that. And then there's some juice that tends to seep from the stem of the atomizer. So let's see. So first step, you have to confidently pull this cap, and then this hole here is usually large enough to fit. Here actually it fits very snugly. You see this? I was afraid it was not gonna fit. Because it fits so snugly, there's not going to be waste, I think, which is amazing. Usually it wobbles. That means when you press it, most of the perfume will go through and into your target, but some of it will actually end up in here. There's going to be a little pond forming right there next to the metal. That's annoying. And there's no way to really rescue that juice, except if you kind of try to dab, or I don't know, maybe wipe it with a handkerchief. God knows. You know how it goes. Mouchoir de Monsieur, like in the Guerlain good old days with a handkerchief. Okay, so let's go. So this is gonna be pretty good, I reckon. Just go in there. Let's see if you can see juice accumulating. Okay. This is a very stiff sprayer, like I tell you, this is why I struggled with method 1, and it's not normal. This is not. Oh, you have to be careful. There is so too much shaking, and you can actually spill. But that was relatively quick. You see, we've made gains, considerable gains here. It's almost half full. So yeah, I'm gonna stop. I've made my point. And we can probably move on to the final option, which is option 3, syringe. This is the best practice option, the sort of gold standard of decanting. I think everyone who's an enthusiast tends to do this or to have done this. And there's essentially no oxygen exposure. No wasted juice, except the little juice that will adhere to and remain stuck in the syringe, and also when you put this back on, you're gonna have a wasted spray. Now, disadvantages: it also requires single-use props. Same as the adapter, it doesn't work universally. It's not going to be an option for integrated sprayers, and it also requires the partial disassembly of the spray mechanism, like you just saw, taking the cap off. It's also the fiddliest of them all. You will see why. And it still has some weird physics and hydraulics attached to it. Someone, please, if you know what I'm talking about, please explain the physics. But I noticed sometimes when I try to suck juice out using this option, it just doesn't. Other times it kind of does go very smoothly, and I'm not sure what's happening there. But on the whole, it works, and you will get it to work if you follow what I'm showing you. So let's have a look. But first I'm gonna just pause slightly. Okay, we are back. I had to grab some props because this option requires props, and I had to prepare lots of props for this video, and I forgot about a couple. And what you will need are two rather mundane things. Number one, a fork. Number two, a chopstick, a Korean metal chopstick or similar. It's not about the exact objects you use, but about the function they need to perform. So for this demonstration, I'm going to be using this TED by Ted Lapidus bottle. It's a 2001 batch, I believe. Yes, indeed. So this one is a vintage, and it's relatively rare, and to me it's quite precious. So I don't want to do any of the things that I did before. I want to treat it with due respect. Unfortunately, I do need to get a bit physical with it. Take this off. Oh man, now this sucks. This is a chunky ass stem. I'm not sure you see, but this is really chunky. It's a big one to take in, so I don't like it. It's not good when they're big like that. And that is because once we unseal this syringe, if you don't know what I will do, you're going to find out. So first, the theory. What I need to do is the same way that the adapter earlier hugged, swallowed the stem. I need to get this syringe mouth to do the same thing. Now this might not actually work for this bottle, so this might be an example where, you know, sometimes the hardware limits your options. You know, particularly with older bottles, I think they tend to have a less standard, thicker sort of stems. But I will do my best. Okay, so first thing that we do, we take the fork, clean fork, mind you, as clean as can be, and we insert it here. And you start sort of rotating and loosening this up as much as you can. Can go deep because, you know, the tooth of the fork gets wider, so that's how you are kind of conditioning this syringe, this poor syringe here, being abused. Once I've done my thing, I can then go to level 2, which is not this end of the chopstick, mind you, this one. Let's make sure we get this correct for you to see. So you just have to be confident. Push, push, push. In a worst case scenario, what can happen is you can break the syringe, but usually they're quite elastic. You know, the plastic here, good old plastic, is very flexible, so it will bend to your will. The iron will of the chopstick. Now I need to give a shout out to my friend Alex for teaching me how to do this. It's not my knowledge, it's the knowledge I have from him. And I honestly haven't researched if everyone does it this way, or if people have more enlightened, less medieval ways of doing this. I realize this is probably the funniest part of the video, despite my attempted puns here and there. Okay, so this is how far we got. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough, just because dropped it. Just because this stud is a really thick boy. So this is why I'm going a bit off camera. Just and really to shove it, push it in really hard. Okay, well, this is it. Moment of truth. Oh man, this is not even close. This is not even close. Yeah, I'm really screwed. Like, I should have checked before I started. You know, the thing is, I really do want to make this decant. If I fail, if this fails, then I will just need to use the adapter method or just the direct spray method. Unfortunately, it just, you know, you need to make a decant, but options are limited by hardware. You're not gonna smash your bottle into a rock so you can get the juice out. That you don't want to do. You have to accept limitations. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, so fork is not needed. Thank you, fork, for your service. There we go. So this is actually going to be hard to get on camera as well, but basically this should actually go in. Mess, goddamn mess. I already have Ted by Ted Lapidus on my hands, on my fingers. As I said early in the video, decanting is a bitch. There is gonna be pain. Witness my pain. Ah no, this is just impossible. Okay, this is a partial failure. You'll just have to take my word that for any normal bottle, not this one, it's gonna work. It's gonna go straight over it, hug it, connect, attach, and then what you want to do is press as if you're spraying. That kind of opens the valve, and then you want to pull from your syringe to suck the juice in, and that's how smooth it should be. Is it? Is it this smooth in reality? No, it's not. Of course not. Okay. I'm just gonna maybe give it one last desperate try. One more dose of pain and failure. Let's see. See, I'm holding it. It makes contact. It's better than, way better than when we started. We probably enlarged this opening by 30%. So push and just squirt it right there. So this is really refusing to cooperate. All right. Well, so much for practical how-to. Let's assume this worked and you learned what you need to do. So let's change gears a little bit. We're edging towards the end of this video now. A word about materials. Decant target bottles or vials. I tend to rinse any bottles that are above 5 ml or 5 ml that I decant into using isopropyl alcohol. I don't really bother rinsing small sample vials. It's not super easy, by the way, to find quality sample vials or mini bottles. I put some effort into finding the best ones that I could from China. That's generally the place to get them from. So recommended is this 3 ml brown glass sample vial. They have good sprayers, plenty of capacity. 3 ml is great for any tester or sample you want to do. The brown glass is good for storage, conservation. It keeps the sun out and prevents damage to your fragrance. Also, for bigger bottles, anything with really thick glass, from this one is actually not great. There's better with thicker glass walls. Any ones you can find from AliExpress or Temu. Sometimes, you know, the sprayers on these, sometimes they are really great, sort of narrow, sharp, focused. Other times they're a bit diffuse and cloudy when they spray. So yeah, hit and miss. But also want to give a shout out to these full black bottles. They're 5 ml, and they do have a different sort of sprayer, a black one. These ones come in silver sprayers, which I said are kind of hit and miss. Some of them are great, others are just okay. So this one is, from what I noticed, better quality. So if you can find this, get it. Also, finally, on the topic of materials, let me show you something. A small Bluetooth printer, label printer, like this one. This is a lifesaver. So if you do lots of decants, you need to label them. Otherwise, you will forget what they are, what year they're from, etc., etc. So you can get one of them for $10 to $20 from Amazon or equivalent, depending on where you live. Now, important. Final bit of discussion regarding decanting vintage or modern fragrances. There are generally 3 acceptable reasons for decanting. If you can hear some weird noises, by the way, that's my cat. Okay, let me get the door. The cats want to be featured in the video. Apologies. So there are generally 3 acceptable reasons for decanting. 1, you decant to share with someone. 2, you decant because your bottle is splashed and you want to atomize your perfume. And 3, you decant because you have a partial bottle with vintage juice and a big oxygen headspace. You want to take the juice out of there so you can better preserve it. I think the first reason is straightforward. To share, you got to do what you got to do. The third reason, to conserve vintage juice in a spray bottle that is threatened by headspace. Okay, but you need to consider that when you take it out of the original bottle, it loses some of its aesthetic appeal and prestige. When it moves from this to something like this, you know, this is generic. This is a piece of history. So it also loses some of its credentials. It can no longer directly be linked to a certain presentation, historical presentation, a certain era, or a certain batch code. The link becomes tenuous, becomes hearsay. It stays in your notes, in your catalog, on a label, and labels are never big enough to capture all there is to say and note about a decanted fragrance. So I would only do it decanting to conserve a vintage fragrance or a modern one if you're concerned about it. I would only do it if fill level is 30% or below, and or if you know you want to preserve the remaining juice for many years to come. If you are going to use it within the next 1 or 2 years, then just use it and enjoy the bottle. You need to consider that if you keep your bottle away from heat cycling and the sun, the oxygen headspace can hurt it so much. Decay happens by a combination, an overlap of factors, not just because of oxygen. There is, as mentioned, heat and direct sun exposure that have to also happen, one or the other, or worse, both. This is my take on this, by the way. You don't have to take my word. You can do your own research. Now, for reason number 2, which is decanting because your bottle is splashed and you want to atomize your perfume. Some perfumes are better at being splashed than others. But I am yet to find a perfume that smells better when splashed. The only time this happens, the only time it happened to me, is when you actually don't like a perfume and the splash application keeps it in reins, and once sprayed, it really hits you in the guts. So I think decanting from a splash into a sprayer to atomize for that type of application is a legit reason. It also helps with conservation of vintage perfumes, as instead of moving your splash bottle around, exposing to the sun, shaking it, etc., you can treat it as a refill source, as a protected reservoir that you can store properly somewhere in optimal conditions. That said, if you are thinking of decanting perfume minis, like 3 or 4 or 5 mLs, completely from splash to a small atomizer, like the one I have here, that is a bit trickier. Because again, you lose some of the aesthetic pleasure of using the original vessel, as well as unlinking the juice from its historical provenance. My rule of thumb would be decanting from a big splash bottle, always okay. It's even advised. Decanting from a mini bottle, emptying the mini completely, it's only if you really love the perfume and you know that you want to wear it a lot. If it's just a reference mini, you should just leave it where it is. You know, this one here is a bit of an edge case because it's a 15 ml bottle. So I took 3 ml out. There's 12 left. I'm effectively treating this as a mini reservoir. I'm treating this as a big bottle, although it's a pretty small one. But 15 ml in this context can be treated as a big bottle because there's plenty of juice left here, and I'm keeping provenance. You know, I'm always gonna have these two together. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have learned something today and enjoyed your time with me. For any questions, please comment and I will get back to you. Goodbye.